airing an HBO show during the Super Bowl just seems like not a good idea. Hello, my name is Sarah, and I would really love it if HBO could hire me. Season 2, Episode 6 is called 1,000 Little Trees of Blood. I really have no idea what it's referencing. I can only imagine that it's somehow tying into the theme of motherhood, or this particular episode. There's just a lot of moms going on in every scene. How 1,000 Little Trees of Blood correlates to motherhood. You know what, just find the metaphor. If you look hard enough, it's there. The scene opens on Rue attempting to open a watermelon-flavored Jolly Rancher. She's having a really hard time opening it. I mean, it's just a watermelon Jolly Rancher. She's breathing heavy, she's got snot bubbles falling out of her nose, and she is obviously going through some pretty intense withdrawal. This time, seeing it through. We get a teeny little snippet of her mother Leslie's background. Apparently, she grew up in a church, which prompts Rue to say what you want about Christians, but at least they believe in forgiveness. That's a weird line. That seems very much like a Sam Levinson opinion, and I don't know how comfortable I am with it. I know many a Christian who do not believe in forgiveness, and I know many atheists who do. Rue calls Ali on the phone, severely regretting what she said to him a few episodes back. Ali immediately forgives her, and once again this season, Rue is let off the hook for something that she's done. She unwraps the Jolly Rancher and eats it. So I guess the Jolly Rancher was supposed to represent some journey to sobriety. All 12 steps neatly packed into a tiny crystal of sugar. Ali comes over to Rue's house and he cooks dinner for her and her family, and Gia helps him in the kitchen. Here he tells her that it's okay to be mad at Rue, which is something that Gia has been trying not to do. I really love Ali. It's clear that he's not only going to be a beacon of hope for Rue, but for her family as well. Nate has no idea what went down at Cassie's house because he keeps his phone on silent while he's working out, and apparently he works out for 24 hours straight. He is in a really good mood because his dad left, and so is his mom. Maddie sits in bed holding the sex tape. She calls Kat and explains that she really, really wants to murder Cassie, and then Kat very calmly says, "That's more than understandable." Kat has a date with Ethan, and in an obvious deflection of the fact that she's trying to break up with him, she instead tells him that she has a terminal brain disorder. Ethan immediately sees right through it because Kat's a dumbass, and he just tells it exactly the way it is. He calls her out for the manipulation and the lying that she's clearly doing, and she says, "Well, that's your experience." Ethan walks out of the restaurant and they break up. Lexi and Cassie's mother gives Lexi all of their kitchen knives to hide because she's scared about Cassie's mental health. This makes Lexi question if she should continue on with the play if her sister is so emotionally turbulent that she has to hide kitchen knives in a bush. Which is when we get a scene of Lexi and Fez. That's all I've been asking for. She talks to him about how she doesn't think she should do the play because it will hurt her sister's feelings and a lot of her friends' feelings. Fez oh so profoundly says, like the stoned little Buddha that he is, that some people need to get their feelings hurt sometimes. That's kind of a common theme throughout this episode, in that Gia deserves to be angry with Rue, Nate deserves to be called out by his mother, which is what happens later in the episode. Cassie deserves to be called out by her sister. Lexi and Fez end up watching Stand By Me at his house, and as the movie ends, they are both crying, and they hold hands. It's so beautiful. And of course the song Stand By Me is playing, which is really freaking ominous, especially with the promo for next week's episode, in which Lexi says, "I just have a feeling that something really bad is about to happen." Faye is watching them in the kitchen and gives them this really weird ass look that does not bode well for them. And then as she's taking out the trash, Faye's boyfriend Custer appears outside of their house. He has been cooperating with the police about Mouse's death, the dealer that Ashtray killed last season. Cassie locks herself inside the bathroom, and all she's been doing is calling Nate. I really don't know how her character just got so reduced into being Nate's groupie, but it's honestly really disgusting, especially since she's the only character that, not the only character, but the character with the most nudity. Like, it's just obvious that she's really just going to be some kind of sex doll for the entire show. Nate and his mom chat a little and get drunk. It's revealed that Nate's mother prefers Cassie over Maddie because she believes that Maddie is the type to get pregnant just to trap Nate. She clearly doesn't know much about Cassie. Also, I think it's a pretty on-the-nose foreshadowing that Nate's going to end up exactly like his father. I don't know who he's gonna get pregnant, but he's gonna get somebody pregnant. Cassie tries to slit her wrists with a corkscrew. I actually don't think she makes contact with her skin because it's a very obvious cry for help. She screams immediately before she does anything, which makes her mother and Lexi run into the room. When they arrive, she says, "I just want to die," and both Lexi and her mother have pretty much no reaction to it. They just leave. Back to Nate and his mother, they're still in conversation, and she is really, really brutal about the things that she's saying to him. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but still, the things that she's saying are not going to change him or help him in any way. She basically just tells him that he used to be such a sweet little boy and then something changed all of a sudden. She said that she used to think that maybe he hit his head really hard or got into a severe accident that made him be this way. And then she goes on to ask him what happened. She literally says that. She says, "What do you think happened?" I don't know, maybe his parents are pretty fucking terrible. Cassie starts going on this rant about Rue, saying that Rue's a bad person, yet she gets a pass. Cassie calls Lexi a loser with no self-respect, which is really brutal and kind of like the pot calling the kettle black. Nate goes through his dad's office and finds his father's gun. Oh dear God, Nate has a gun. Maddie is babysitting again, and Samantha, the mother of the child she babysits, the one who kind of flirted with her in the first episode of the season, she comes home and she tells Maddie that she wants to get drunk and go for a swim. What a mom of the year. So they start drinking wine in the swimming pool, and they talk about the situation with Cassie and Nate. I don't know if there's supposed to be sexual tension in this scene, but there definitely isn't, and I'm really confused on why they're including this character, unless it's just another mother. I don't know. Maddie goes home and she's changing in her bathroom, and let me tell you, I let out the biggest fucking gasp when I realized that Nate was watching her. I was thinking, why is this shot so weird? Like, she's isolated all the way over here on this one side, and then I literally looked over my eyes to the other side of the screen, and there he was in the reflection holding a gun. When she finally sees him, her reaction is honestly so understated. Not only did she have no idea that he was in her bedroom, but he's holding a gun and pointing at her, and all she says is, "What are you doing here?" What? Nate demands that she give him the disc, and he empties the gun's barrel of all but one bullet. What happens next is really traumatic and just honestly like torture porn at this point, and he kind of pushes his body down on top of hers as they're laying on the bed, and he starts aiming the gun at his head, playing Russian roulette on top of her, and like just really pressing his body into her. Like, it's assault. It is purely assault and severe psychological trauma. He clicks the gun twice, nothing happens, and he's about to click it for the third time, and Maddie finally gives in, saying that the disc is in her purse. He takes the disc, and Maddie is a complete mess on the bed. She's crying, she's in a fetal position, she's not doing well, and I guess Nate, being an empath, realizes this. And he sits down on the bed and he says, "Maddie, I'm sorry. I was joking." What the fuck? Psychopath. Honestly, at this point, Nate and Cassie deserve each other. They're perfect for each other. I hope she traps him with a pregnancy and they can go fuck themselves. Nate goes to Jules's house and she arms herself with a box cutter. He apologizes to her and then gives her the disc, which is something that seems completely out of character, given his psychopathic tendencies. Especially since Jules can easily take it to the police. Rue tells us that Nate's sole reasoning for wanting the disc back is so his father's company isn't ruined by the looming image of a pedophile. But then that turns out to not be the case, because he doesn't destroy the disc, he gives it to Jules. It's just this really, really weird complexity within his character, honestly, where he can recognize that he is traumatized, like he's a bad person, and then he tries to almost correct it within 5 minutes of being a terrible person. Because to be honest, if it were just this scene, if all we saw of Nate this episode was this scene in the car with Jules, you would think he's a decent guy. And that's what's most terrifying about his character. He then calls up Cassie and tells her to stay with him at his house. She packs a bag and her mother watches her leave in complete disappointment. Yeah, we're all right there. Cassie's mom. Cassie and Nate are happy together, I guess, and Maddie is still crying on her bed. Jules watches the tape, which is a weird choice, both by Jules and really by the writers. I don't understand the idea of wanting to relive a traumatic experience. Some might argue that it could be therapeutic, but it really just seems severely triggering, especially since she just learned about the tape. Lexi wakes up to find Cassie missing, and it is just the nail on the coffin on whatever doubt Lexi might have had about going forward with the play. It's definitely going to happen now. And I'm not just saying that because it's obvious that the play was going to happen this whole time. We're back to Rue's house for the dinner, and they ask her if she wants to be clean, if she wants to get clean. She says yes, and Gia has her doubts, and she voices them. They fall asleep together, and Leslie gets a call from the rehab center informing her that there are no available beds for Rue. And then the episode ends. Now, did I think this was a good episode? It was better than the last one, I think. It was better than fuck. You know, it's so difficult because the writing on this show just doesn't... Plot points are introduced with ultimately no payoff. Or it seems like it's no payoff because all of these episodes are just filling space before we actually get to the meat of the action. This particular episode was a complete filler episode. If you ever have a scene where a character says, "I remember when," then you don't need the scene. Nate's mother going on about this would be so much more impactful and emotional if instead of saying, "I remember when you used to," they actually showed it in a flashback. And they do that a lot with each character. They go back into the childhood of each character. Don't know why they couldn't have done that. But this entire episode, not much happened until the last quarter. So much time was just spent talking and recounting what had happened at the end of the last episode. Either way, it's not like I'm gonna stop watching it. But I will say, if they kill off Fez, I'm going to be the closest I've ever been to not watching it. It was an okay episode, but it was a coffee table episode is what it was. It was a lot of characters talking about what had happened rather than actually doing anything or acting upon anything. Also, last episode I talked about how Rue burnt a lot of bridges, and then yet in this episode it seems like none of them have been burnt. They are still firmly standing, with the exception of Cassie. Even Lexi and her mother are still empathizing with Rue and forgiving her for what she's done because she's an addict. She can't help the fact that the drugs make her into a completely different person. So, 0 consequences for anyone except Maddie, honestly. Maddie had a lot of really terrible consequences, and it looks like Fez and Ashtray might be seeing some consequences next episode. But next episode is actually hopefully going to be much more action because it's the play. And Fez is completely right. Sometimes people need to get their feelings hurt, and every single character on Euphoria desperately needs their feelings to be hurt. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.